$400 for a car payment? $600 in food? Where are you shopping? Do you only eat at Whole Foods?
He's got to be making a massive mistake to have a $400 milk car loan.
Ruslan.
Get into that. Guys, my name is Ruslan, and this channel exists to encourage you to mastermind your business the master's way. All right, now let's get into the video. The conversation of the middle class decreasing has been prevalent, and it has pretty radical impact on many of us in terms of what should we aspire for with stability regarding income, buying a home, building wealth, so on and so forth, especially as those of us that are creative and creative entrepreneurs. So a recent TikTok video went viral basically stating that $74K a year, which is way above the average salary, is no longer middle class.
Gen Z doesn't agree that $74,000 is middle class. No kidding, it's not even close. Check this out. If you take $74,000 for a Gen Z, or let's say they have a bachelor's degree and they're 25 years old, the take home after taxes, 401k, and health insurance is $4,300. The average college monthly payment on a loan is about $500. You're down to $3,800. Split a 2-bedroom apartment in a medium-sized city like Orlando so that their payment is $1,200 a piece, $200 for utilities, so $1,400. Their groceries are going to cost about $600, a $400 car payment, $200 in insurance, $150 for gas, $100 for a cell phone, leaves you with $950. This is no safe.
What is the first thing you notice here that just jumps out at you?
A disgusting $500 of loans per month, eating up your most valuable wealth building tool, which is your income.
How about $1,400 to split an apartment in Orlando?
Yuck. First of all,
in Orlando?
Are we just making up numbers?
You
live on the beach?
You pay that here.
Yeah.
We're in the most expensive area in the country, San Diego, California. Okay, $2,800 for a 2-bedroom apartment is standard here. Maybe even more expensive than that.
If you live a little,
$2,500 for a 2-bedroom right now.
Yeah, if you live a little east, me and my wife. I mean, this is 5 years ago, but $1,500 was our first apartment. That was 2 bedrooms, and it was a little east.
Yeah.
But yeah, standard is for a 2-bedroom is going to be $2,800. So
$2,800 here now.
Yeah,
right. So that's in San Diego.
Washington. That's in San Diego.
It's in San Diego. $400 for a car payment. $600 in food. Where are you shopping? Do you only eat at Whole Foods?
Investment, no emergency fund. Let's give them at least $300 to go on a couple dates or hang out with their friends. They're left with only $650. It would take you years to save up the $30,000 that you would need for a down payment on a house with the closing costs. But even if you could get that down payment saved, you would still need to make $120,000 a year to be considered for a $400,000 loan. The middle class, the goalpost has been moved from seven.
That's not true. That's not true. Like, I don't know where he's pulling these numbers from, but
400 is nothing.
So there's one where like the math isn't mathing on this, and then there's this attitude that just is like disgusting. Yeah. It's gross, right? And so like there's levels to it. There's one level of like just complete bad math and overspending. You need $300 to go out and have fun. I didn't know we were going and having fun when we were saving for a house. I'm sorry. I didn't know we were having fun when we were getting out of debt. I'm sorry, right? You need $600 on food and live in a luxury apartment in Orlando.
Yeah, that's crazy.
At $2,800 for 2-bedroom apartment in Orlando. Like, there's the spending is out of control. Then there's the presupposition that you need a $400 car and $500 in student loans. And then there's the undergirding and the just a whininess of it all. And I feel like a boomer saying this, but like it's just sad. Like, it's sad that there's people that filter life through this hyper entitled, I gotta have a $500 car, and right?
Yeah,
anyway.
No, it's crazy. And 400 is really high for a car loan.
Yeah.
Like, if you're at a 400 car loan, you made a massive mistake.
Yeah. Go ahead.
$70K to $120,000 in just the past 2 years.
So given the unbelievably massive outcry this video received, which is over 10 million views, 1 million likes, and over 35,000 comments, let's break down exactly what's going on, why people believe that even $100,000 a year is no longer middle class, and then what you could do about it to immediately put yourself in the best position possible to come out ahead. Or I guess as Dave Ramsey would say, how to waste $5,000 a year, spend $13.70 a day on things you don't need. That's why when I'm...
That's a banger.
That's a banger.
That's a great quote.
That's a great quote.
Looking at these numbers, I see things from a slightly different perspective. One, in most cases, a $74,000 salary would equate to $4,544 after state and federal taxes a month. And since employers will typically pay 78% of medical premiums, I'll assume that on average, you'd have about $150 a month to be able to contribute to a 401k. If you continue doing just this over 40 years, your 401k balance would be $542,000 by the time you're 65. Two, USA
That's
Today
not
found
bad,
that
by the way.
46% of bachelor degree students graduated with no student debt whatsoever, which would equate to a $500 a month savings. But even for the other 54%,
So that's an interesting talking point no one talks about. The majority of people graduate, 54%, with no student loan debt.
Really? That's crazy, actually.
That was what he just cited.
Yeah.
54%. So this idea where you need student loans and you're always going to have student loans, that's just not true. It's just false. Right? And so, and Graham proves it to you that it's false.
like I mentioned earlier, the average federal student loan debt was $30,000, and this would require just $300 a month to be able to pay off in full after 10 years. Again, that would be a savings of another $200. Third, splitting a two-bedroom apartment or house is a fantastic way to save money on rent, especially if you're living with a friend, spouse, or someone you just really get along with. But with my example, it's still possible to save an extra $200 a month in this category depending on the type of house that you pick. Fourth, $600 a month in groceries is a lot. Shopping in bulk, getting a Costco membership, cooking food at home, and then freezing the leftovers could be a very easy way to save an additional $150 a month. Our freaking budget even did an incredible breakdown on the types of foods they ate for $450 a month, and it was phenomenal. I'll link to it down below in the description. Fifth, $750 a month all in for a car is just way too high. Realistically,
that's
there are
insane.
plenty of used cars under $12,000 that would be fantastic to be able to drive around. Like, I just did one quick search on AutoTrader and found almost 1,000 options between $6,000 to $12,000 within 100 miles of me. That means even if you got a $12,000 car with no money down and financed the entire amount, your payment would only be $226 a month. Added another
That's what I was saying. I was like, you got to be making a massive mistake to have a $400 a month car loan.
Massive mistake.
for
Over
$250 for gas and insurance, and that saves you $275 extra from the previous amount. $100 a month is just way too much for a cell phone. Go and spend half of that at Boost or Mint Mobile, and you'll be able to save an extra $50. This means, under this scenario, if you have student loan debt, you would be able to save an average of $1,925 every single month. This also doesn't count that you'll have an extra $225 left over every single month once your car is paid off in full after 5 years, and you'll have an extra
He said you'd have an extra $1,900 remaining. That's a good amount.
That's a house savings amount.
And that's considering you still have a small car note, right?
yeah.
That's considering you still have a small car note. So get rid of the car note, pay your car in cash, pay it off, and you can save $2,000 a month.
And the student loan, $300.
And get rid of the student loan. Now we're talking $2,500 a month. That's a lot. That's a lot. Go ahead.
$300 a month left over once your student loans are paid off after 10 years. Now, of course, to be fair, to start, I acknowledge that $74,000 a year is probably on the high end of where people start their career. So he's right. The starting salary is probably going to be somewhere between $50,000 to $60,000 a year, and that'll affect these numbers. The second, since this is the average, statistically, half of the population will have expenses that exceed this, depending on their location. And third, I did not include things like entertainment, car repairs, or other things that just randomly come up, which we could probably assume is going to be another $500 a month. Although even with all of that, I know what the comments are going to say, and let's finally address it. How does this compare with buying the average house here in the United States, and would you even be able to qualify for it? Well, here's the truth when it comes to home affordability. As of now, the median home in the United States costs $417,000, and the median down payment is $31,500. This suggests
Sheesh.
I mean, if we're at $1,500, that's what? That's 20 months of saving at that rate? Less
Correct.
than 2 years to put a down payment on a house?
The average house.
The average house,
Right,
yeah.
the average house. So that means that if you get your lifestyle under control, that means if you get out of debt, within 2 years, you can have an average down payment for a home. So yes, it is true that housing is more expensive than ever before, but this idea that buying a home is so out of reach for people, it's just not true.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not true. It is harder, especially if you're in San Diego, Seattle, New York, Atlanta. I don't know how bad Atlanta is. Miami, Chicago. Like if you're in a major city, yes, it's going to be harder.
Yeah.
For sure. It's very hard to buy a home out here right now. You're looking at definitely having a salary above six figures, and you're looking at having more than six figures on hand to get into a home.
Yeah.
That's a fact. But if we're talking just the average, the math just isn't mathing. Go ahead.
that you need to qualify for a loan of $385,000. And to do that, here's how much money you need to make. When it comes to home loans, lenders really only care about two things: income and debt. The income part is fairly straightforward. It's simply how much money do you make every year, do you have stable employment, and do you have 1 to 2 years of tax returns? If you do, you're going to pass. However, the debt part is a bit more complicated. In this case, most banks want a maximum debt to income ratio of 45%. This means no more than 45% of your gross income is eaten away by all of your expenses, including housing. So as a quick example, if you make $6,000 a month before taxes, multiply that by 0.45, and you can have a monthly payment no more than $2,700. But then let's assume you have a $300 student loan payment, a $250 car payment, and a $100 credit card payment. That'll leave you with $2,050 a month left over to go towards all things housing. And this will buy you something with a mortgage of approximately $270,000. Now, of course, since lenders use debt as a way of qualifying payments, anything like student loans, personal loans, credit cards, and car payments are going to be reduced from what a lender is willing to give. So if you have absolutely no debt and you make that same $6,000 a month, a lender would be able to give you the full $2,700 a month to be used towards housing. And in that case, that'll equate to a mortgage of approximately $360,000. Now, does that mean it's a good idea to go and spend 5 times your annual income to buy a house and max out what you're able to qualify for? Probably not. But a lender will give it to you. And if you want to buy the median house of $417,000, that's going to require a down payment of $40,000 and an income of $6,400 a month before taxes to be able to qualify. However,
so literally the math we just went over can get you into an average income around a house around $400,000 at saving $2,500 a month for 2 years. Right? Is that how the math works out? You need $40K cash down.
Might be a little over 2 years for 40. We were doing that for 30.
40,000 divided by 2,500, 16 months. Think about that for a second. You save $2,500 a month for 16 months, you have $40,000 cash. That's crazy.
Don't forget tithing.
Yes, of course. But
So minus 600.
Oh, because of the yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, man. It seems like the math ain't mathin'. And there's a lot of presuppositions about the math that we're going to get into here in just a second.
Ramsey's team responded to this, and here's what they had to say.
If you're just starting out, you're in your 20s. I'm like, yeah, that
If
ain't
you're
bad.
22 years old and you have $650,000 left over.
Come on, somebody. $300 on fun money. Again, that's a lot of money. Like, that ain't bad.
But what if you decided to get an extra job and pay off this debt? You would free up a car payment
$400.
and free up $500 student loans. So that's $900. You will be making more money over your lifetime. That is true.
I think this is an
we're okay.
expectation conversation.
Yes.
Come
but
on.
the problem I have with it is honest. It's kind of his attitude of like,
Yeah.
That's right. That's
versus
it.
saying, well, I have $650. What can I do now to better
Yes.
my life with that?
Of course, Freddie also posted his reply to this, and if you're curious what he said, here's what he reiterated.
If $74,000 is middle class, if a 27-year-old with a bachelor's degree splitting a 2-bedroom apartment is middle class, how come they can't buy a house? Now you need almost $120,000. So what's your advice to someone who is making $74,000 and in 85% of the country can no longer buy a home?
So with all of that said,
But he didn't really answer the.
He didn't answer the point.
Yeah, he just reiterated his same point, which was.
Here's the answer. Pay off your debt so you have an extra $700 a month and get aggressive about saving up for a home. Save up $40,000, $50,000 for a home and buy a home. Like if you look at millennials to Gen Xers, I think millennials are buying their average home at like 33. Gen Xers were buying their average home at 31. So it's not like this
Astronomical difference.
Yeah, it's like this incredible difference. Now, yes, a home is 10x the average salary in many places. That is true, right? And once upon a time in the 60s, homes were 2x the average salary. Okay, that is true. Yes, it is harder, but there's also more opportunity than ever, which I got a story in a second. Go ahead and play this video.
yes, housing is insanely expensive. To make matters worse, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, you would have to make $129,000 today to have the same purchasing power that a salary of $100,000 had just a decade ago. But
Yeah,
in
it's called
fairness, there are
inflation.
very few jobs out there that have ever existed that would allow you to buy a home in your 20s by yourself during a time that you're also paying down student loan debt. It's also
That's right.
statistically most likely that you would be sharing this cost with a partner, which would dramatically reduce
Right.
the amount of money you'd have to make. And if you would like to buy a home on your own making $75,000 a year, then yes, it's technically possible based on a lender's 45% debt to income ratio. But first, you have to pay off all debts. Second, you need to save up enough money for a 10% down payment. And third, you better save more money beyond that because having almost half of your income towards housing is pretty dangerous. No, this is not going to happen as soon as you land a job, and life is expensive, especially when you're just starting out your career. But I do believe it's possible. You will be able to buy a home if you're disciplined in your career and save money. And I will do my best to read and respond to as many comments as possible because I have a feeling this is going to be quite juicy. So with that said,
He knows.
So I think one, we're starting with the presupposition that you need debt. You don't need debt. The majority of people graduate with a bachelor's degree don't have debt. Okay.
Crazy.
So second presupposition is you always need a car note. You don't always need a car note. That just is, right?
fact.
You don't need a car note. Third is you need blow money and you need to shop at Whole Foods and spend exorbitant amounts on your grocery bill. You don't. You can shop at Costco. You can shop at Aldi's. You can watch my video, which will link somewhere below.
We should do an updated one.
We probably
for
should.
The second channel.
Where I was dirt broke and hitting all my macro goals, walking around shredded and getting tons of protein. So if I'm able to do it when I was dirt broke before my YouTube took off, I think you could figure it out. So much for watching that video. Guys, I believe that one of the best ways you can build a business is by first building a platform online. So Zach Sparazzo put together a free training for you on the #1 metric you can be looking for to explode your YouTube platform. Click the link in the pinned comment below so you can start that now. All right? I'll see you over there. Peace.